And I think traditionally we've managed to get good crowds, haven't we, in Singapore?
Yeah.
From our end.
That's right.
Right. We managed to sort of...
A lot of Singaporean, Filipinos over there in Singapore.
Yes, we managed to get hold of the Philippine foreign working community and really engage with some of those foreign workers and get them to the stadium, which created almost that home atmosphere.
For sure.
In the previous campaigns that Kaya have had in Singapore. So, maybe that approach isn't the worst, and maybe it's a case of we can almost have that as a home game, home away from home.
Welcome to Across the Line. On this episode, we talk all about back-to-back nights of AFC Cup football at the Rizal Memorial Stadium. Ceres-Negros taking on Vietnamese side Tan Quan Ninh, and Kaya F.C. Iloilo taking on Singapore's Tampines Rovers. Both matches were entertaining in their own regard, and we break both down on this episode. If you like the content that we provide here on Across the Line, please do subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and on Spotify. Enjoy the show. Welcome to another edition of Across the Line. It's Football Friday, and today we're talking all about back-to-back nights of AFC Cup football at the Rizal Memorial Stadium. It feels good to be back on the program. Jing Jamlang Chris Greatwich, of course, doing the show as always. Hey, Chris.
How are you? You all right?
It's been a busy week.
Yeah.
Preparing for the AFC Cup. Obviously involved with Kaya Football Club, and so many things going on behind the scenes that you tend to not get an opportunity to really enjoy the occasion. But wow, what a couple of nights for Philippine football. I mean, a fantastic opportunity for all of the fans to come out to the Rizal Memorial Stadium on back-to-back nights to watch Asian level football.
It's nice. Obviously, I hadn't had domestic football since the SEA Games.
That's right.
Right. So, great to have people come out and support the two best teams in Philippine football.
100%.
Club teams. So, how did you find it last night? Obviously, Tampines Rovers, high-profile team coming over from Singapore.
Yeah.
It was hyped up as an opportunity to sort of see really where we would fare in this group, because coming into the game, Tampines Rovers were probably earmarked as the favourites for Group H. How did you think the team did against Singapore's premier team? Struggled, especially in the second half against them.
I would say there was a pocket of about 10 minutes in the beginning where we had a couple of chances that really needed to be buried. If those were buried, then the game would have been completely different. I think the team has been together for about a month.
Yeah.
So, if you're going to ask them to play a possession game or try to keep the ball against a side like Tampines Rovers, it's a bit of an ask.
Mm-hmm.
I think in how the team defended, wow, they defended like lions out there today. Last night, they really, really did a good job staying compact, staying organized. I mean, they still got their chances. On top of that, Mike Casas was gigantic for the team.
He made a couple of really crucial saves, especially in the second half, didn't he? He made a couple of...
Needed to.
He turned back the years a little bit with a couple of those saves, didn't he? So, definitely kept the team in it with a couple of big stops. Yeah,
I mean, Tampines Rovers, they're the team to beat right now in Group H. They might be second in the standings right now, but the way they play the game, the way their confidence, the players that they have at their disposal right now, they're going to be a scary side to see, especially if they continue to improve. But I would say 0-0 at home, being able to take a point away from that match, you're not going to be too angry about it. Coming up next for Kaya are some games that you would see that could be manageable for the club. So I think the chances of progressing are still there.
Yeah.
But I mean, what a side that they have. They have like 4 or 5 players that are constantly exchanging positions and causing different types of threats. So it was fun to watch if you were tactically minded.
Yeah.
But if you were looking for just pure end-to-end football entertainment, perhaps was not the spectacle for you.
You were at the stadium last night. Who impressed you for the Singaporean side?
I would say Webb was, of course, impressive. Every time he got the ball, it seemed like it was very difficult to get the ball off.
Jordan Webb, right?
Yeah.
He's been there for a few years, and he's sort of... I think he came out of North America, Canada, is that? Or US?
It seemed that way.
I think, and then he sort of didn't come in with much fanfare, but they came around the same time as Jermaine Pennant, Billy Mehmet, who'd been doing the circuit in Southeast Asia, and then Jordan Webb. yeah, like I said, not really highly touted, not really much buzz over that particular signing, but he's been there for a number of years now, and has proven himself on this level to be a real star striker.
Yeah.
His pace, he's direct, very difficult customer to handle. I think he's certainly one of the premier forwards on this regional stage.
100%. Gave Jalsor Soriano, who came back from a 3-game suspension, everything he could handle in that match. What a way to be welcomed back onto the Asian stages to mark that guy. And he said as much after the match that he was disappointed with himself. In fact, the coaches expect him to score. He expects himself to score in these. He had his opportunities, and he said he didn't do his job. So he's pretty upset about it after the match. But I would say he's definitely a player that you have to look at, and he's the bogeyman for that team. But Nakamura was good too.
Yeah.
And they had a midfielder, a foreign midfielder as well, who was very good at pulling the strings. So in terms of being able to hold the ball, especially under pressure, when you press them high, it's so easy for them to pass the ball around.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a tiring game for the boys of Kaya.
Yeah, I think looking at the standings, Kaya sit atop of Group H right now with 4 points. Level on points with them is Tampines Rovers. So just on goal difference, Kaya are able to claim that number 1 spot after the 2 games. I'm looking at it from the perspective of, is that a point gained or is it 2 points dropped? Because I understand that only one team qualifies from the group. Guaranteed. Then you're looking at sort of best second place across the other groups to see who would qualify. Obviously, the home form is critical in these types of competitions where you only have 6 games, so you really got to maximise your 3 home games. And Kai's home form in the last year's competition was extremely good. In fact, even in the campaign in 2016, the home form was very good. Is it going to be seen as a point gained, or do you see that as 2 points dropped?
I would say, given the circumstances, a point earned.
Yeah.
It could very well have been 3 points going their way in that match. Like I said, we had our chances, but majority of the possession, majority of the game was being played inside Kaya's half.
Yeah.
Tampines will walk away, will fly home thinking, man, how could we not have beaten them today or last night? So I think in that respect, looking at the fixtures list down the road for Kaya, which is PSM back-to-back, and then Shan United, who seem to be struggling at the moment. So if you handle the PSM games and you take care of Shan United at home, then you have an opportunity to fly to Singapore with potentially the group on the line. So
the final game is going to be Tampines in Singapore.
Yes.
Okay. So so looking at that, then the PSM Makassar games back to back becomes, you've got to be taking minimum of 4 points really.
Yeah.
From those two, if you have intentions of qualifying out of the group, because that means by my powers of deduction that Tampines have Shan back to back, and you've got to assume that they're going to take 6 points from them.
Yes.
Right. So, you're going to need to be in contention going into Singapore. Really, I would say 4 points, from those 2 games is going to be necessary if they intend to qualify as the number 1. We sort of unpacked it a little bit in the last one of the last podcasts that PSM and Kaya already have a little bit of needle with regards to an incident last campaign with Jalsor, the aforementioned Jalsor Soriano, getting red carded for what can be described as a kung fu kick on one of their players. So I'm anticipating that game is going to be fireworks.
And here's an addition to that. It's not going to happen in Bogor in Pakansari Stadium, where we played them last year,
which was away from
where they are in Makassar, right? Thankfully, it's not going to happen in Makassar, but they transferred stadiums all of a sudden to Bung Karno in Jakarta. So this is a larger stadium.
The main stadium, right?
The main stadium. But they threw us a bit of a curveball. Everyone was expecting that we're going to play in Pakansari. We've expected that for the last month. And apparently, there was some correspondence done with the AFC that they were going to move stadiums. Of course, nobody bothered to tell us.
Why would they?
Because we're only going to travel there in a couple of weeks. Travel requires, your hotels, your transportation. Nothing.
Don't worry about that.
So it threw us a little bit of a curveball there, but we're looking forward to coming over and experiencing Bongcarno. Hopefully it'll be a nice crowd over there,
Fingers crossed. I mean, it's 80,000 capacity or something close to that. Because they have renovated it recently, but it's in and around that sort of mark.
And if Persija plays there, sometimes it's 60, 70,000 who come out to watch. The stadium is shaking. I want to experience that personally.
For sure.
Yeah,
I'm sure the players do too, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So that's exciting because I think that one is really... I mean, I looked at the game last night and I understand that it was quite a pragmatic approach, shall we say, with the pace of the Sampanese front line. You obviously don't want to engage with them too high up the field, leaving yourself a little bit open at the back, spaces for the likes of Jordan Webb to exploit in behind your back line, which isn't the paciest. Casas is not one really to be a sweeper keeper and come off the line. He's definitely more of a sort of stay-at-home keeper, shot stopper type. So I could understand why you want to neutralise that threat and have a slightly deeper line. Obviously, the problem then is you're going to concede a lot of ground, and they were able to, really control possession. They switched to play out the back, and was largely untouched in the build-up phase, pretty much for the entire game. And while sort of the pragmatic approach led to a more sort of compact, neutralizing defensive setup, it also meant that, for large portions of the game, they were on the back heels. Maybe this game has probably come a little bit too early, because I think had this been maybe the middle games, which I think are running in around sort of March 11 time, I think you're saying is the next March 10. So maybe it would have allowed the coaching staff to maybe implement a more aggressive, especially being at home, a more aggressive setup in order to maybe take the game to the Singaporean side a little bit, because 100%. But I understand it with, you've had one game prep, essentially, right? Yep. We're not in season, so you might have to take that pragmatic approach and look at it, as you said, from a perspective of maybe it's 1 point gained rather than two points lost. And if they can stay in the hunt, if they can stay in the race coming into that final game, with something on the line going into Singapore, maybe that's the best approach, playing the longer game rather than looking at this game in isolation. Because obviously, like I said, in previous years, I mean, you look at the 5-0 drubbing last year of Home United. You looking at it from a fan perspective, I would like to have seen them been a bit more aggressive and taking the game to the Singaporean side. You saw in previous competitions, obviously Balestier at home. 2016, we went after them and we won the game 1-0, which could have been a 3-4-0 game. I mean, we dominated that team. And last year, the 5-0 victory against Home United just demonstrated for me, I felt that the Filipino teams were really announcing themselves as being like, look, no, I think we are above and beyond the Singaporean league, the S League now. The PFL is a stronger competition across the board. So it would have been a nice statement to come out and say, look, listen, it's not just Ceres that's a top team in the Philippines. Kaya is also a team on this level, on this stage, that can compete. So it would have been nice to have sent that message out and perhaps given a more aggressive performance. Sure. But also given the circumstances, given the fact that they've only had one game, one competitive game in 2020, maybe they look at it as being a point gained and just stay in the hunt, play the long game, and maybe, away from home, everything riding on top spot. Maybe that's the approach that the coaching staff have looked at there. The
way I see it, it's the team has been together for 5 weeks, 6 weeks. You had an opportunity. You played your first match and you won it. You didn't dominate that game either, but you had an opportunity to nick that game away. Mm-hmm. You come back home. You've got 2 weeks to prepare against the toughest team in the group on right paper. Now. Yeah. You've seen them play and you see what they're capable of. You have a decision to make. Are you gonna focus on how do we keep the ball and how do we break them in transition, or do we focus more on let's stay compact and let's nullify their game and let's see what comes up? Yeah. And I think that's the approach that they took, which is let's play it safe. Why do we need to make unnecessary chances for them, given that we have been together so little amount of time, right? So at the end of the day, if the team improves come May, it will be a completely different contest.
Because that's when the final group game will be, right? May.
Yeah. So, it'll be a different contest over there in Singapore. And hopefully, depending on the results, hopefully we'll be in there in the mix.
And I think traditionally we've managed to get good crowds, haven't we, in Singapore?
Yeah.
From our end.
That's right.
Right. We managed to sort of...
A lot of Singaporean, Filipinos over there in Singapore.
Yes, we managed to get hold of the Philippine foreign working community and really engage with some of those foreign workers and get them to the stadium, which created almost that home atmosphere.
For sure.
In the previous campaigns that Kaya have had in Singapore. So, maybe that approach isn't the worst, and maybe it's a case of we can almost have that as a home game, home away from home, going into that last game. I mean, we're making a lot of presumptions because PSM came out at firing in their game against Shan United. Obviously, they lost their first game against Tampines.
Yeah.
So they needed to win that game, and they did so with what seems like a pretty routine 3-1 victory. So a lot's riding on this next game.
100%.
A lot is riding on this next game. So it's going to be exciting to see what happens with those two matches, because I think fireworks are imminent, and hopefully we get some intense football over the next two games.
Yeah, as an added bonus, I get to go back home to Indonesia, Jakarta. Right?
Here we go. We'll round up some of your pals. See if we can
get a little bit of support for the team.
It would be nice, right?
So there you go.
It would be nice.
That's Group H. It's all very tight at the moment after two matches. Similarly so in Ceres-Negros' group. They played the day before.
Yeah.
A great atmosphere over there at Rizal Memorial Stadium, and they were forced into a battle against the Vietnamese team. You want to go for it?
No,
Chris?
you go for it. I want to hear your Vietnamese. I call them TQN.
It's Than Quan Ninh, right?
That was it. Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I was there for that match. Of course, AFC Cup nights, they're not, all the time around in the Philippines. So you definitely have to take your chance when it's around. And we went over there, and wow, it was a great atmosphere, like I mentioned, and the match was entertaining. It was a great affair because Ceres-Negros had a control of the ball a lot of the game, but Than Quan Ninh, whenever they had it, they had the confidence to play their style, to work out their openings as well. So, they opened the scoring in beautiful fashion. I remember seeing it and thinking, what a pass that was to open things up for Lynch to score. So I don't know. Did you watch that game?
I mean, I looked at the game and I thought maybe we're expecting too much from Ceres, right? Obviously, same as Kaya, they're not in league football right now. They're still probably pretty rusty themselves, right? I mean, obviously they did a great job in qualifying for the third preliminary round in the AFC Champions League qualifiers. Beat Srei in the first game.
Handedly, too. 4-0.
4-0. And maybe we expected too much from them in this game because they did look a little bit sluggish. Super was out.
Yeah. Still recovering from that surgery.
Yeah, so, I mean, they went for a sort of 3-4-3 setup with Sean Kane Groman and Dennis Villanueva, which is pretty makeshift, pretty new, and as a back three, there was a lot of gaps. There were a lot of spaces for TQN, I want to call them, TQN to exploit. And lo and behold, that was obviously how the first goal came. I mean, it was a great through ball, but there was acres of space for Lynch, the forward, to latch onto that through ball. Obviously, rounded Roland and put the ball into the empty net. But there were a few opportunities like that. There was one that was called for offside that was pretty tight, almost identical. In the first half, they just look dodgy at the back. Yeah. I mean, like I said, it's a little bit makeshift. They don't know each other that well. I'm looking at that back line. I mean, Sean Kane has played centre midfield. He's played right back. I mean, he has played in the back three before.
A lot last year, actually.
Yeah, predominantly on the left-hand side, but I'm not too sure if he's your sort of prototypical centre back. Maybe alongside someone like Super, I think he might be a little more comfortable because Super covers a lot more ground. He's physically very dominant. He's very aggressive, so he can cover spaces if the game gets a little bit stretched. Again, Dennis is probably more of a converted centre midfielder playing in that role. And I look at it from how they set up in previous years with Carly and Super. Plus one. Sometimes Sean Kane, sometimes someone else, but probably just a bit more solid. I think Josh played okay. I just think the spacing between the left and right centre backs just left him a little bit exposed. So while on the ball, I think he did a pretty decent job. I felt like he was a little bit isolated on his own there. And maybe had Super been there and he been in one of the right or left centre back slots, he might have been a little bit more comfortable. You've then got Minagishi at left, sort of wing back.
Yeah.
On one side. Well, thought did okay, but again, it's probably not his most natural position. They dominated possession still, So although it was not the most comprehensive performance, it still dominated the game.
Yeah.
He still got a front three of Robert Lopez Mendy, Stefan Schrock, and Bienve, right, and OJ obviously on that side as well. So, I mean, it's still formidable. It's still formidable, and they did control large portions of the game against a decent Vietnamese side. So, yeah, I mean, I sort of came away from it thinking I was a bit disappointed in terms of the result. I don't think they played their best, but they still came away with a draw, which still secures them top spot. So, the penalty wasn't the penalty, which is one thing I really want to address. I was watching it live and I was thinking, going in 1-0 at half time, Risto's going to blow his lid here.
Yeah,
because I think they could have played a lot better. They had created some chances. They looked. They had a couple of efforts from set pieces that they could have capitalised on. But the penalty was BS. I mean, when you watch it and you think he's made a mistake here, and it's not like you go into an Indonesia or a Malaysia where there's the crowd on your back and that they're baying for blood, and it was garbage. I mean, it was a dive, blatant dive.
Yeah.
I mean, even the Vietnamese defender was backed off with his arms up in the air as if to say, he's run into me here. And that's a kind way of putting on it. I mean, the guy's dived.
The first thing that I thought when I saw it was I made the VAR motion. I was like, oh, man, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
I mean, so we were talking like, if there's any justice in the world, he's going to
miss this.
He's going to hit it down the middle, which he did. And the keeper's not going to move.
Okay, so let me just clarify this one. He hits it down the middle every time.
Every time.
People need to be doing their homework here, right? Because I was watching it in my bedroom, and I turned to my wife and said, chip.
Yeah.
Straight down the middle.
Exactly. We were joking about it in the stands. We're like, if there's any justice, the guy's going to catch this right down the pipe.
Right? I mean, come on. Who's the goalkeeper coach here? Do your homework.
Yeah, man. Come on.
Right? Do your homework.
Ugh.
I don't want to be giving away any secrets here, but come on. It's getting ridiculous now. I think ref saved one of his.
Possible,
When I was in charge, definitely.
No. I think it was Ace.
Ace saved one.
Ace saved one.
Ace saved one. Yeah. I think he sort of waited, and then he's not going down here, and then he tried to stick it somewhere, and Ace has made the save. So someone did their homework, please, and make him change up his penalty routine. But anyway, that's someone for a coach somewhere to pick up and
sure.
make that call. But I mean, they're still top of the group. My thing with this is we've gone into this, and when we've sort of talked about the AFC campaign, we've looked at it and said, right, well, Ceres and Bali are going to be the two teams fighting out. But I saw Svay Reng play against Bali, and they're a good side, the Cambodian team.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what happened in that 4-0 game. Didn't watch much of it, saw snippets of it. But I was sort of flicking through the Ceres game and the Svay Reng against Bali game. They're a very good team.
Possession?
And they dominated Bali.
Oh, wow.
It wasn't even like that was a lucky, smash and grab 2-1 victory.
Yeah.
They dominated them. So I don't know if Ceres are looking at this. They're sitting pretty atop of Group G right now with 4 points, Svay Reng and Bali with 3 and TQN on 1. But I wouldn't be surprised to see those other 3 teams taking points off one another.
Right.
Because I think that there's not much difference between those teams. I still fully expect Ceres to qualify
Sure.
from this group at a canter, to
Yeah.
be honest with you. But I think Svereng might cause some teams some problems, and it won't be the first time they take points off some of the other teams in this group.
Yeah.
That's my prediction, because I think they're a top team. Great football, well coached, well drilled, got an Irish coach in there who seems to be doing some great work with them. And Bali looked all over the place, just reliant on their individual stars to come up with something. Lo and behold, I think they scored in the second half.
Yeah.
Had a goal disallowed in the first half, but I wasn't impressed with them at all. I think they need a lot of work.
Right.
So I fully expect Ceres. They played Bali on March 11th.
Yeah.
I fully expect them to. They're in Indonesia, aren't they, as well, for that game? I fully expect them to go there and take 6 points from that team. I think they're light years ahead of that.
That's an interesting question, actually. I'm not sure if they're playing at home, because I believe that there's a potential that Ceres will play another home match.
Okay.
So because this recent one was a rescheduled one. They were supposed to travel to Vietnam, but there was a travel ban.
Okay.
So I think they're going to play 3 straight home games is what's going to happen.
And then 2 away to finish?
Yeah. So, 3 away to finish.
3 away to
finish. But the thing is, Bali at home are formidable. They've got a great crowd, great atmosphere.
Because they beat TQN in their first game at home.
That's right. So I don't think they travel well, but if they're going to travel to RMS and then they're going to play against Ceres there, and Ceres can get a win, then they're going to be in a really good spot, I think.
Yeah, then all of a sudden that I'm not saying that group is then put to bed, but I mean that just puts Bali in the unenviable position of having to take probably 9 points in the remaining 3 games, including beating Ceres.
Yeah.
Right.
So here's my question. Obviously, we didn't get a chance to talk about OJ's goal. OJ's did fantastic finish in that one, and then there was that little scruffy goal that TQN got at the end there to tie things up. Points earned or points dropped for Ceres in this one?
Well, I came away with it with the initial of, well, that's 2 points drop.
Yeah.
Because I expect them to run up the scoreboard and just dominate from this group. I know we said in the build up that we thought Bali would be better than they actually are.
Yeah.
In my opinion, based on what I saw the other day, they look
mediocre.
They look mediocre at best.
Yeah.
So, but I think TQ on a decent side. You know, they showed. I think they're better than what their 1 point from 2 games would suggest.
Sure.
So it wouldn't surprise me if they end up sort of featuring a little bit more prominently in their remaining games against those other 2 teams. So I see it as 2 points dropped, but in the grand scheme of things, I think having seen the other 3 teams, I actually think Svereng might be the team that might cause some problems and might end up pushing Ceres hard for maybe not the top spot, but they might end up nabbing that best second spot.
Right.
Because I think they're a team who obviously made huge strides since their first game.
Yeah.
So let's see what happens. Maybe they're the team that might be a bit of a dark horse to compete for that best second spot.
Yeah.
But I don't see it derailing them too much, because I think, like you said, if they've got the home game against Bali, they can really lay down that marker and say, listen, okay, let's get back to winning ways, pick up the 3 points, and all of a sudden they'll be putting distance between them and the other teams in the group, which at the halfway mark is exactly where they need to be.
Super coming back as well, so that's going to be big for them.
Yeah.
That's pretty much everything for the AFC Cup. Both groups we've had an opportunity to see. Both Filipino clubs still at the top of the tables. But of course, Ceres still a favorite in their group. Kaya, a huge question mark on how things will transpire in Indonesia against PSM back-to-back. That's going to be the key in this group. So much excitement to look forward to in the AFC Cup, and it resumes in just a couple weeks' time. March 10 and 11 are the matches to look out for. Ceres and Kaya back in action then. That's it. Anything else you want to add to the AFC Cup?
No, I just think it's great that we had decent turnouts in the 2 games. Obviously, great to have the games on television as well. So I know there's a lot of people tuning in and we're watching the game on TV. And I think, again, at the quarter mark, both teams sitting atop of their groups, I think, again, showcases the strength of club football in the Philippines. Hopefully, when the league gets up and running, these teams can get into their stride and continue to stay at the top of their groups, which is, fingers crossed, what we want. And hopefully they can progress through this competition. But yeah, decent start from both teams. And looking forward to some tasty next round ties against two Indonesian powerhouses.
Yeah, the dream is still alive. Hopefully both Filipino teams move on to the next round and go up against each other at some point in the AFC Cup. That is the dream, right? All right, so all the AFC Cup in the books here on Across the Line. If you enjoyed this episode, you enjoy the content we provide here on Across the Line, please do subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and on Spotify, and catch us on social media on Facebook, Instagram, and on Twitter. Drop us a line, drop us a comment. We really appreciate everybody who drops us a word. And do please rate and review the show. That's it. Thank you for watching.